We feel really positive about this class for many reasons. When I was hired here, the first thing that we did after we met with our football team last year that was here at Penn State was we began to delve right into recruiting. And what we want here eventually is definitely a smart team, a high character team, a big, fast, physical football team that can play in all kinds of weather. And I think we've done that with this recruiting class. Now, what we did, and not me, with the rules the way they are right now, the head coaches can only see these kids really once, off campus. So you have to give a ton of credit to our coaching staff. We have a great staff of recruiters and coaches and teachers and family guys, and then Billy Cavanaugh, who did an excellent job of organizing it all, just a really sharp guy. You have to give those guys a lot of credit. But what we did was we found guys that came from good families, that were smart guys, that we think are tough guys, that we know are going to come here and go to class and be good in the community. And then time will tell about, obviously how good they all end up being. You never really know until they actually start playing for you. So, we're excited about this class. Sanction-wise, certainly we lost some kids because of sanctions. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that, the sanctions didn't play a factor in some of the guys that we set out to recruit. But at the end of the day, all I'm concerned about are the guys that are here. And what we talk about as a staff all the time is we're not about collecting talent. We're about building a team. And I think it's important to understand that we feel like we've done a good job of starting to build a football team for the future here with the kids that signed with us today and the 5 that were already here in January, and then with our run-on program, which we feel is going really well for us right now.
Bill, there's no playbook for how to react to sanctions recruiting-wise, but how did you shift strategy and that sort of thing after that hit? Because I would have to imagine you had to refocus and do some different things.
Well, the strategy definitely changed, Mike. I mean, the one thing that is important is that you go from thinking about 85 scholarships, signing 25 guys in a year, and then when the sanctions come out, you immediately have to become a mathematician and figure out how, number one, how you're going to get to 65 by September 1st of 2014, which is what we have to do. Number two, you have to think about we can only sign 15 scholarship players. And number three, how much more important, even though at that time it was very important to us, but how much more important the run-on program becomes for us. And so that was a series of lengthy meetings with our staff, with myself, Billy Cavanaugh, Jimmy Bernhardt, who's my right-hand man here, just discussing strategies and needs and all the things that go into a 65 scholarship roster and signing 15 guys. So the strategy's definitely changed. And I feel like we've got a lot of bright guys here in this building, a lot of guys smarter than me, that had some good ideas, and the strategies will constantly be evolving, but we feel really good about how our strategy worked as it relates to today.
Coach, what in particular did you like about Christian Hackenberg? What do you think he brings as a quarterback?
Number one is he's a really good person. We feel really good about our quarterback room right now. It's young. It's a young quarterback room. Whoever plays quarterback for us next year, whoever takes the field in the Syracuse game, will basically be playing college football for the first time. Steven got a few snaps this year against Virginia, but for all intents and purposes, the quarterback who plays for us next year will be somewhat of a rookie quarterback. So when you look at our room right now, we feel like we have competitive guys, smart guys, guys that come from good families, guys that are going to work hard in the classroom, and Christian fits right in there. He's a tall guy. He's got a very accurate arm. He's got a strong arm. He's smart. And we feel good. Again, the jump from high school to college to the pros, those are big jumps. So he's making the jump from high school to college. That's a big jump. The system that we run here at Penn State is not the simplest system in the world to learn for a quarterback. So, he's going to have to really begin to study and understand what it takes to play quarterback at this level, which we've talked about a lot in the recruiting process. And the same can be said of Tyler and Steven. When you play quarterback at Penn State, that's very, very different than really any other position on the team. When you play quarterback at Penn State, you have to really learn how to balance the classroom with being the best prepared quarterback you can be, working in a weight room, studying the playbook, studying the game plan, studying your opponent, and then obviously going to class, which is number one and will always be number one at Penn State. So we think that Christian is a guy that's going to come in here and do all those things, and we feel really good about our room at that position.
Bill, a follow-up to Christian over here to your left. Follow-up to Christian, do you anticipate him being a guy that will be able to fight for the starting job, battle for the starting job as a freshman? And along those lines, do you maybe not have the luxury of redshirting many of these kids because of some of the effects of the sanctions?
I will say this about the quarterback position. Those guys, Christian, Stephen Bench, and Tyler Ferguson, any one of those guys could be our starting quarterback against Syracuse, no question about it. So don't expect me to really name a starting quarterback at the end of spring practice. I might, but I might not. So understand that. Now, as far as redshirting and things like that, that's hard to say, Scott. You look at it, the one thing that you have to do is you've got to do a great job of evaluating these guys every single day of starting with spring practice with the 5 newcomers that are here. And then in training camp with the other 12 that are added to the mix. If these guys are ready to play, then as a coaching staff, we make the decision to play these guys. We involve their parents in that decision. I'm talking about the freshmen. And then when we play them, we have to play them. If you play a guy, if you decide to play a guy as a freshman and you only end up playing him first 2 games, you play him, total of 10 plays, that's not very smart as a coaching staff. So if we believe that any of these guys are ready to play as true freshmen, then we have to get them prepared to play, and we have to play them. And we have to live with rookie mistakes, and we also have to do a great job of guiding them and teaching them and staying with them, and that's how it goes. So there's a lot that goes into that red shirt decision, and you can't make it right now.
Bill, you and your staff have discussed previously about, because of the limited scholarships you're giving out, that you can't miss with guys and you have to be real careful. How did that manifest or change in the way that you've approached recruiting over the last year?
You're right. You're right. You really can't. It's almost impossible to do this, but you really can't miss when you can only sign 15 scholarship players. And we feel really good about where we're at, but again, only time will tell. So that's when it becomes vitally important to, number one, be as thorough as you possibly can be in recruiting. As thorough as you can be within the rules of recruiting. You've got to do a great job of, so to speak, leaving no stone unturned. And then the next deal that becomes really, really important is the run-on program. And we feel really good about that run-on program. I think that overall this is a great day for Penn State. And people may look at me and say, well, why do you say that? We're in the middle of sanctions and all these things. And well, this is a great day for Penn State because I think it proves a lot of things about Penn State. Number one is we signed some really good kids that committed to us early and stayed committed to us. Stayed committed to us when they could have gone elsewhere. So that's really a great day for Penn State. That says a lot about Penn State. Not any one coach or anything. It says a lot about Penn State. Number two is we found with our run-on program that there are many guys out there, mostly Pennsylvania guys, but even some other guys from other states, that have grown up dreaming about playing at Penn State that have fantastic opportunities to go to other schools, fantastic schools, but they've chosen to come to Penn State because of Penn State. They have a chance to sit in this team meeting room. They have a chance to lift in that weight room, which is the best weight room in the country. They have a chance to be coached by an excellent coaching staff. They have a chance to play football in front of 100,000 fans. Most importantly, they have a chance to receive an incredible degree, an incredible college degree. And so that says a lot about the tradition, the history of Penn State, the foundation that Coach Paterno laid here and built here for 50 years. And we're trying to keep that going. But what it said to me today was, this is a very good day for Penn State because of what it says about the university.
Bill, you just touched on this a little bit ago about the guys who stayed committed to you. Can you talk about back in July, just a couple days after the sanctions, you had a group of guys come in here and pretty publicly commit to you. How important was that for you, the program, and keeping this recruiting class together?
Yeah, it was really important. You know, that was an interesting day when the sanctions came out. We had really good relationships with these families, just like all coaches that are recruiting at these great schools. You know, you develop relationships with these families. It was pretty neat for me being a first-time head coach, is being in all these kids' homes over the last month or 2 months. You know, that was pretty neat, you know, getting to know their families and being in their hometowns. And what happened in July was we had these really good relationships with these kids that had committed to us. And so they called, you know, and they were upset. They were upset because the Penn State that they had committed to changed as far as sanctions were relative to the sanctions. So they all got in their cars and they drove up here. They drove here to State College, and they sat right in this room. And it was a very private meeting. It was a very emotional meeting. I stood right here and I answered probably 50 to 75 questions as best that I could. And if I didn't know the answer, I just told them, look, I don't know the answer to that. I'll find out the answer as fast as I could. But I think it was very important, and our whole staff was in here too, and they were able to meet with these families also. And I think that was a very important day for us here at Penn State at the football program because, you know, it was just a very honest, somewhat emotional, tough, but a very productive meeting.
Bill, back on the run-on program, generally speaking, with the message and the strategy of recruiting run-ons, how much does that differ with recruiting the scholarship athletes? Is there a big difference?
There is in the rules, Gennaro. There's definitely a difference in the rules about how many, you know, and I'm not going to get into all the specifics of can you call them and how you contact them, how they contact you, things like that. But as far as, you know, once those contacts are made, there's really not a lot of difference. You're talking about the same things that you talk to a scholarship athlete about. You're talking about education, being able to choose from so many different majors here. Once again, I say this all the time. I mean, you guys probably get sick of me telling you this, but I have these guys in my office that are currently on our football team, and I'm just amazed at the diversity of all the majors on our football team. And I think that's a huge selling point. You come here to play football, to go to school here, you're going to be able to have a passion for playing football, and you're going to be able to have a passion for what you want to study. And so we talk to all of the guys that we're talking about Penn State too. We talk to them about the same things, and it doesn't differ based on, you know, scholarship or no scholarship. So, and then obviously the chance to develop as a player, the chance to play in front of great fans and play in a very you know, a program that's filled with history and tradition. It's the same thing you talked about to all these different guys.
Bill, how many to your left here? How many run-ons are you looking to add to this class? And are there any walk-ons from this past season who will be on scholarship this upcoming season?
We'll probably try to add. We're only allowed to bring 105 to training camp. So, you know, right now we have about 90 guys in the program right now. And then you add the 12 scholarship guys that'll join us in June for the summer bridge program. So you're talking about 102 guys there. So, you know, we'll probably try to add between 13 to 15 guys. You know, there's some guys that may end up leaving the program, things like that. I'm talking about walk-on. So that's basically how we'll handle that. So I don't know right now the exact total, but it's anywhere from 15 to 20 guys that'll be here when the training camp starts. What was the other question?
I'm just curious if there's any walk-ons from the 2012 season who will be on scholarship in 2013.
Yeah, there are. Off the top of my head, I know that Matt Lehman will be on scholarship. Ryan Kaiser's on scholarship. And then anybody else that I'm not remembering, I'll get that to you. But those are two that I know.
Coach, right here. A lot of fans, a lot of people in the business, they look at Mahan, Brenneman, Sickles, and Hackenberg as the core of your class. But there were three other guys that you offered pretty early: Andrew Nelson,
Yep.
Zaid Esau, Curtis Cawthron.
Yep.
How important were they? What do you like about those guys? And where do they kind of rank on your recruiting board?
Well, I'll tell you, it is true that the storyline out there for a while was that we had this core group of guys, and to me, they were all important. Like when I look at this list of guys, there's not one guy that I look at and I say, wow, that guy's a lot more important than the other guy. That is no way to build a team. You don't build a team so within the walls of this football building, all of these guys were extremely important to our football program and to our university, to our athletic department, because they committed to us during what a lot of people think is a tough time for Penn State. We don't see it that way. We can't wait to play the season next year. We can't wait to play in future years with 65 scholarships. I mean, life's about challenges. Now, as it relates to those guys that you asked me about, Andrew Nelson is a guy that we met early on, offered a scholarship to early on, really thought very highly of this guy, like a high character guy, good student, great family, and a Pennsylvania guy. We think he's going to be a heck of a player. Now, I'm probably putting some pressure on him there to come in here and do that, but he's big, tall, rangy. He can bend. He's tough. I mean, he's a Penn State offensive lineman. Zaid was a guy that like you said, we evaluated on tape early on. We evaluated him as a student, and we felt right away that this is a guy that can be a Penn State linebacker. And that's saying a lot because we all know that the history of Penn State linebackers here is, the best in the history of college football. So, we feel really good about Zaid and his athletic ability and his ability to come in here and play and be a good guy for us. Who was the other one you asked me about? And then Curtis Cawthron, we felt, again, another Pennsylvania guy that comes from a great family. Same with Zaid, same with Andrew, from down there in Philadelphia area, Council Rock North, and we were really excited about the fact that, we like this guy on tape. He's played very productively. He's a good guy. When you go to the school and you would observe these guys, that's another way to tell how are these guys. You go into the school and you look at Curtis Cawthron, he's walking down the middle of the hallway. He's like the Pied Piper. Everybody's high-fiving him. Everybody knows who he is. The teachers love him. I mean, and you could say that about all of these guys that we recruited. That's something that I noticed in going to all these guys' schools, and Curtis was a guy like that, and we just feel he's got tremendous upside for us.
Coach, you brought in three guys from the South, Parker Cawthron, Nico Robinson, Casey Gaines. Could you talk a little bit about what they bring to the class, and do you envision yourself continuing to recruit in the Deep South and other regions of the country?
Right. We'll continue to recruit in the Deep South, in the South, because we have connections down there. I coached at Georgia Tech for 8 seasons. Matt McWhorter his roots are down there. So we'll continue to recruit down there. But again, the bulk of the roster will come from that 300-mile driving distance, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Baltimore, D.C., New York. We've got to do a better job in Ohio. We have to do a much better job in Ohio, and then New England. But we'll still get into the South. And so these guys, when we went down there and we watched these guys play and we got to know their families, again, they come from really good families. They're high character guys. They're tough guys. All three of these guys, Gaines, Cawthron, Robinson, we think are going to be really good football players for us, and so we're excited about having them on board, and that gives us a pretty good diverse mix of guys. When you look at the geography of our roster, we have a decent number of guys from the South on our roster. The bulk of the guys are from the Northeast, and that's the way it should be at Penn State. And so we'll continue to recruit down there, but we feel we're excited about those three guys.
Coach, building off of that, you guys lost Ted Roof, who everybody knows down south. How does that change your approach? And just on top of that, where are you guys at in replacing him on the staff?
Ted, obviously Ted did a great job for us this year, and that's what happens in coaching. Guys have decisions to make that are the decisions that involve their families. And he went to Georgia Tech. He's in the Georgia Tech Hall of Fame. That's where I met Ted. Was at Georgia Tech. His wife's from Peachtree City, and he's from Lawrenceville. So they're going back home, and that's good. And again, he's got a great presence in the South. He's a fantastic recruiter. But we'll still be in there. Charles London's from Dunwoody, Georgia. Mac is from Atlanta, born and bred, played at Georgia. So we still have some ties in the South. And I'm in the process of filling that position on our staff, and that'll probably be something that gets filled over the next week or so.
Bill, in addition to recruiting these freshmen coming in, you were also continuing to keep your current team together. Was there a lot of meetings? Is that an ongoing process? Can you speak to the significance of going into spring practice with your former team?
Right. You're talking about the fact that they can still transfer up to August of 2013? Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Neil. Appreciate it. No, we it's a fair question. We feel really good about our football team right now. I think the guys that are here right now, having gone through last year, they know us a little better. They know the things that we expect out of them. They understand the systems on offense and defense and special teams. They love the weight room. They understand how academics works here as far as the football academic support system. We feel really good about where we are with them. Nothing's changed as far as the honesty that we have with them, the relationships that we have with them. Nothing's changed. We all understand what the rules are. We're playing by the rules as far as the sanctions that the NCAA laid down on us. But at the same time, we don't spend every waking minute, just like we didn't really last year, about just talking to these guys all the time about staying. We really don't do that much. We say right now, hey, you guys are Penn State football players, and we can't wait to coach you in the spring. But we're very mindful of it. But we just continue to coach them on a day-to-day basis, just like we would.
Maybe I didn't word it right, but are you over that bridge with a lot of those guys who are still here?
That's what I'm saying. I think we are. Yeah, I believe we are. I believe we are. But we're very mindful of the situation that we're still in.
The NCAA recently passed a rule that kind of gives more coaches unfettered access, for lack of a better term, to contacting recruits starting in August. How is that going to change your 2014 approach? And reading between the lines, is that kind of what you meant last month when you said looking to add recruiting personnel?
Right. Yeah, that's part of it, Nate. No question. The rules are changing, and basically they're not changing. They're removing a lot of rules. Less regulations, less regulatory methods. So, it'll change a lot. And we're actually in the process of really looking at that right now. Every day, we spend part of the day on recruiting and how are we going to handle, unlimited text messaging or unlimited visits to schools or whatever it may be. We're never going to join the ranks of the wild, wild west. I can promise you that. We're going to do things the right way at Penn State, and we're going to still try to go out there and find Penn State guys. We want tough guys, smart guys, high character guys, and so that's not going to change. But yeah, maybe some of the ways that we go about doing it have to change because of the less rules. That's probably, I'm just a rookie head coach. I don't know. That's probably for somebody else to answer than me. Again, I'm just all about in recruiting and our staff. We're just about finding the right fit. And then once we find the right fit, developing the relationship where the parents and the prospect and we all feel like we're on the same page as to where we can take this young man when he gets here, academically, socially, and obviously football-wise. Whether that's good for college football or not, I don't know. I just really want to see how good we can do at Penn State.
Coach, you in the middle. Penn State has a pretty rich history with legacy commits, guys who've had fathers, uncles, brothers playing the team. You got Rich Anderson in this class, a couple other run-ons coming on. Is that something you're going to keep stressing in the future, trying to get those guys that have had family members play here?
Well, I don't think there's any question that that's important here. You know, we've got such a strong Letterman organization, and you know, a lot of these guys that have these teenage sons that are good athletes and good players, and they have good genes, and they have a passion for Penn State because they've grown up watching, you know, how much it meant to their dads, and a lot of them are both parents went to Penn State, a lot of these legacies, which is pretty neat too. So you know, there's no question. Now obviously they have to be able to play, you know, and they have to be good students, but that's something that we'll definitely continue to look at, no question about it.
Bill, how much time has it taken you to learn, you know, the rules with the run-ons, given it's such a different situation? And do you expect any of them to enroll this summer for the bridge program? I mean, considering they're paying for it.
Yeah, they will. Some of them will.
Okay.
Yeah, some of them will enroll. I'm not sure how many right now, but I'm sure that some of them will. Audrey, I look at the rules every day. If I have something on my desk that I completely don't understand whether we can do this or not, I turn right around. I have the NCAA rule book like I have a desk. So here's my desk, right? So here's a credenza behind my desk with the rule book, which is like that thick, and I just pull it out and I go to the page that is appropriate for what I'm looking at, and I figure out the rules. So, you know, that's kind of the way it goes. And so yeah, I'm very, every day is a learning experience when it comes to the rules of just overall recruiting for me.
Bill, you talked last summer about balancing the roster out a bit. How do you feel you were able to address that with this class? And could you talk about what you were able to do on the defensive side of the ball with this class? Yeah, we basically signed 8 offensive players and 9 defensive players. You know, so you have the 5 that are here now, the 12 that signed today. So 8 on offense, 9 on defense. You know, we feel like with the restrictions, with the sanctions there, with only being able to sign 15, you know, we feel like we balanced it pretty well. And, you know, at the end of the day, do we wish there were a couple positions where we could get some more guys? Of course, but we can't because of our restrictions. So we feel like we balanced it very well offensively and defensively. It's a well-balanced class when you look at the linemen versus the skill players. We just wanted to recruit guys, like I said, that we knew fit our program and fit our style of play, and we feel like we did that.
Bill, going over here. Going back to your to that meeting in July, do you know or can you estimate how many kids were there, and of the ones that were there, how many stayed committed? I mean, did any of them?
Yeah, I'm counting. I'm counting.
Okay.
Give me a second, man.
Sorry, I thought you.
No, I'm counting. I got you. You know, I want to say that there were probably, you know, don't hold me to this. I want to say there were about 8 guys there, 8 total, and I would say that 7 of the 8 stayed committed. And I don't ask me about who didn't. You can figure that out. I mean, I'm sure you got sources that you can figure that out. But one guy said he was coming and then decided to go somewhere else.
I mean, Coach, this was your first full year as a head coach on the trail. You've been an assistant before. How was your role different compared to your assistants? And you know, was there anything that you feel like you improved upon? You know, going throughout the year. I mean, you know, like you mentioned, you were a rookie. I mean, just how was the year in general? What was your role like? And you know, how did it compare to some of your assistants?
Yeah, it was totally different than being an assistant coach. Totally different. And so, you know, I was basically trying to improve every time I went out, you know, whether it was the message in the home or the message at the high school or whatever it might be. And so I think at the end of the day, all I ever try to do is be myself and be honest with people and with their families. I don't get into all the, you know, with all due respect, like I don't ask them how their girlfriends are doing and, you know, when the prom is and all that. Like I don't really care about that. This is how I see your academic future, and this is how I see your football future. This is what you're going to be required to do in many ways off the field, community-wise here at Penn State. And I just constantly tell them that we're just looking for good, tough guys that are smart, that are going to keep their noses clean off the field and go to class. So, as the days went on, hopefully that message was delivered better by me. But it's totally different than being an assistant on the road.
Bill, to your left, do you follow the recruiting rankings at all?
No.
How many? I guess.
No, I really don't. That's a fair question. I don't know. I respect them. I respect the people that do that. Those people that do that. Some of them are my friends. I mean, I've known a guy named Jamie Newberg for 20 years, since I was at Georgia Tech. So some of those guys are my friends. I respect what they do. But at the end of the day, I clear that has nothing to do with how I look at a student athlete, a prospective student athlete. I look at a prospective student athlete with our staff, and I say, look, this is what we need. Okay, so how does this guy fit what we need? What does he do well? What are his weaknesses? How's he going to fit in with our locker room? How's he going to do in stats his freshman year? How's he going to do working in the community for us? Because he's going to have to do a lot of that. How does he fit? This is a different place. I'm not saying, we're up here, and I'm not saying that. Don't get me wrong here. Penn State is a very unique, special place to play college football. And so I don't care about stars and rankings. And, somebody came running into the office the other day, or not the other day, this morning, and said, hey, we're the 4th ranked team in the Big Ten in recruiting. Like, who cares? Like, who's 1, 2, and 3? And, who knows? I don't know. I just know that I feel good about the players that we got here in this class.
I guess a follow-up to that, are there any players in this class that maybe weren't recruited as heavily as others that you think could be a quote-unquote sleeper?
Again, I think that's a great question, and I'll say the answer is yes, but I'm not going to get into who those guys are. I would say that the answer is definitely yes, and I always go back to my last year in New England. We went to a Super Bowl with a roster filled with guys that probably didn't have 5 stars. Let's think about it. Rob Gronkowski probably had 5 stars. Aaron Hernandez probably had 5 stars. Welker didn't have 5 stars. Danny Woodhead didn't have 5 stars. We had a right guard for many years in New England named Steve Neal. Some of you guys probably never even heard of him unless you're wrestling fans, because he didn't play college football. He wrestled in college, then he played pro football. So my point is, when we go out and we work our process, our system of recruiting, we try to find the right guys that fit our program, and that's what we think we did. And so certainly there are probably some guys on that list right there that weren't as highly recruited we think are going to be good players.